Hey everybody, I got a video here for you today. And those new to my channel, I don't just concentrate on Egypt. I know I have done a lot of videos on the pyramids in Egypt lately, but I am interested in all different aspects of ancient history from many different time periods. And I want my channel to be as thorough as possible, and I just think that's a sign of a good channel when they put out just information that they think is important and trying to be thorough, or stuff they've looked into, and not worried so much on views or popularity of a certain subject. But I just wanted to say that. But I have had questions and comments. Hey, could you do a video on South Africa, the ruins there? And I think that is an excellent question. There are ruins all over southern Africa, and I have made a few videos on these stone circles that Michael Tellinger has looked into. I like Michael Tellinger's work on these stone circles, but with many different researchers, it's the same with Michael Tellinger. I don't agree with some things he says, and I'll just leave it at that. But here I show, some people say these are little cattle circles here to keep cattle in, but here I found one on top of a mountain. And I did this video fairly recently, but these ruins are located all over southern Africa, and I just wanted to point you people to these videos because I've already done them. I found a Nazca line type thing that just goes across valleys over mountains. I was totally unaware of these lines, and I really haven't seen much on them, but I found some. And it really isn't hard to find these ruins in southern Africa if you just take the time to look. And I found this very strange on the top of a very large plateau here. Not sure what exactly this is or what it means, but I just found that very interesting. Now, there are some days when I don't have time to make a research video, and today is one of those days. So at the end of this video, you're just going to get a brief lecture from a channel, Recording Archaeology, and I'll put all their links below. They make their videos shareable. It's a good channel, so go check them out, and they put up some very good information. And I have made videos on rock art before. I've showed you rock art in the Boundary Waters in Utah and a few other places, and I think it's a fascinating subject. Cultures through history were putting their art on cave walls and other places, and it just proves that artists a long time ago were just as good as any artist today, and what they depicted on the walls is really the only trace of their civilization we have left. And I think they were documenting the stars and their life and certain other things that were very important to them, spiritually and otherwise. And those were good questions on the ruins of South Africa, because it made me look and find this video that was shareable, and it comes from Recording Archaeology, and once again I'll splash their links in a few different places. But this is Drakensberg, a mountainous area, and I guess it's in the lower part of these canyons that some pretty amazing rock art was found, and I am just gonna take you out with that video clip. It's just a brief part of it. I will leave the link to the full video below. Check out Recording Archaeology, give them a sub. Their videos are shareable, and it's going to be a little more difficult to share shareable videos after September 20th, and I think some of you know what I'm talking about. So I wanted to do this today. I like sharing channels. I like being thorough. I think rock art is fascinating, and I need to go. So enjoy this video. You all have a very nice day.
So I'm going to be talking about the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg rock art and the managing of this rock art, primarily over the last 10 years. And we're going from the South Downs or southern England to South Africa, so quite a way. We're moving south. Let's go. That's about moving. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg, what it looks like, the rock art and the loss of rock art that we've experienced over a period of time, some of the management arrangements in the park. I'm going to look at an organization called Ezemvelo and make some points about it. It's the management authority for the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg Park. I'm going to talk about its priorities, and then I'm going to move on to some recent sort of developments in management, some positives, some negatives, And I'm going to come back to the Ezembelo and the Natal Parks Board, which was a forerunner of Ezembelo, to try and understand some of their priorities and the impact that this has on the management of the rock art, and then I'm going to wrap up. So, I suppose some of you might, South Africa, you'll know where South Africa is. The uKhahlamba-Drakensberg is in the eastern part of South Africa. It's in this area over here. It's a mountainous area. It borders on Lesotho. So this you can see that it's a mountainous area. The uKhahlamba-Drakensberg is down that side, and it abuts the mountain kingdom of Lesotho, which is to the west of it. And this is in the eastern part of South Africa. As I mentioned, it's a mountainous area, so what you have here is the high mountains and the low mountains. The majority of the rock art is in the low, what we call the Lowberg, the low Drakensberg, in rock, cave sandstone rock shelters. Very few caves or shelters in the higher mountains. There are some, and some do have paintings in them, but the vast majority is down in the bottom, in rock shelters, at the bottom of these sandstone bands. Primarily, you can see it over there, broken up into two, the higher berg and the lower berg, and the rock shelters down at the bottom. We do occasionally get boulders coming away from these sandstone bands and falling in such a way that they create rock shelters that people both lived in and made paintings in it as well. The paintings have been recorded or documented over a very long period of time, since the 1870s, but really mostly in the last 50, 60 years. There's been a lot of projects recording the paintings. We now know that there are over 600 painted sites in this area, and we have probably on record over 40,000 images. So there's a lot of images in these sites, primarily humans, 60%, animals about 30%. So about 90% of the paintings are humans and with equipment and animals. We also have separate ritual figures and then other sort of pieces of equipment and lines separated from humans. It's a World Heritage Site. In fact, it became South Africa's 4th World Heritage Site in the year 2000. There are 4 criteria. It's a mixed World Heritage Site, so it's a natural and cultural World Heritage Site. And the 2 cultural criteria are one that's, and I'll come back to the word Maluti later, but it's the largest and most concentrated group of rock paintings in Africa south of the Sahara. It is outstanding both in terms of its quality and diversity of subject matter. That's the first criterion. And the second is that the Sand people, these are hunter-gatherer people, lived in the mountains for more than 4 millennia, leaving behind them a corpus of outstanding rock art, providing unique testimony which throws much light on their way of life and their beliefs. So it's, that gives you a sense of their importance. Can be added to. It's not only is it very rich, but it's one of the best recorded and interpreted rock art regions in South Africa, and in fact Africa as a whole. And it's been used certainly over the last 40, 50 years as the basis for very significant interpretation, advances in interpretation of rock art in South Africa. But as the third point makes, it's been used, these understandings that have been developed based on ethnography, but the ethnography applied to the rock art in the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg has then been used in other parts of the world as well. The Upper Paleolithic rock art has benefited from interpretation which was developed in the Drakensberg, or the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg, and even Neolithic passage grave art. So it's had significance way beyond just the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg. And it's a magnificent art. It's well known primarily for the shaded polychromes, so that's in the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg and surrounding areas, and you can see these shaded polychromes over here, so 3 colors or more that shade into each other. The large animals that you're seeing are eland, and those are the largest antelope, and they were seen by the hunter-gatherers having a lot of power. You can see human figures as well. These large sort of human-like figures are what we call therianthropes, so they're half human, half animal figures. I could spend, in fact, the next half an hour just talking about them, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show you some pictures to give you a sense of what these are about. This has got to be one of my most favorite sites. It's called Eland Cave. In the 60s, a man called Harold Parker recorded over 1,600 paintings in the site. A beautiful site, really very impressive. They spoke about the detail in the rock art. You can see some of it over there. What I'm going to do, could you turn off the lights over there? Because which one is it? Is this one? I think it turns off. Yeah. There you can see the quality of the art, and you can. It's fantastic. And this is one of my favorite scenes. It's an eland. It's a large figure. You can just see the front of the face, and a pangolin sniffing each other. That's the only kind of painting of its kind that I know from this area. Now, my association with these paintings goes back, 2017, 38 years. So in 1979, as a young postgraduate from the University of Cape Town in South Africa, I was given the job for 2.25 years to survey as many paintings and sites as I could in the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg. And the reason to do this was to bring together all the different recordings that had been done over the previous 20, 30 years, to standardize these, but also use as a basis of developing a management plan, because at that point there was no management as such in the uKhahlamba-Drakensberg. I started in 79 and it went through to March 1981. So I was well into the project when I visited this site on the 19th of August 1980. It's called Good Hope 1, and I knew from a book published by Patricia Winnicombe that the paintings had significantly deteriorated since 1907, when they were first recorded through photography. But I wasn't ready for what I experienced next. So the top left, 1907, a photograph, and then the bottom right and top right are redrawings by Patricia Winnicombe, 1958 and 1968. And then the bottom right is 2009, and that's really what I experienced in 1980, that they were gone. The paintings had completely disappeared. What had happened was, you can see between 1907 and 1958 there's quite a bit of deterioration, but the paintings you can still see, they're more or less intact. It was put onto a local hotel walk list in the early 1960s, and then the deterioration just accelerated. People coming in, touching the paintings, putting water on the paintings, so much so that by the time I walked into it in August 1980, it was gone completely. And in fact, what we've had, a project by Justine and Vinci's and Jeff Guy, where they have digitally, they've digitally restored the painting, so you can look at it through a publication, but it's not there anymore. And as they say, they were able to locate the original position of the paintings, although the painting images themselves had ostensibly disappeared. And what was really interesting for me at that time in 1980, there was another site about 300 meters away, 300 meters away, Good Hope 2, which had no damage in it at all. So the nature, the impact of just people engaging with the site, because very few people visited Good Hope 2, was evident in this site. And it was a seminal lesson to me at the time of the vulnerability of the paintings. And it wasn't necessarily through overt vandalism. It was through people just engaging, touching it, putting water on it to try and bring out the colors, kicking up dust. And these are very vulnerable things. And we know with archaeology that once they're lost forever. These are not, and these are arguments I would have with natural scientists. You can't reintroduce the paintings in the way you can introduce eland and other antelope.